Dude, on any tour for any artist ever, alcohol is the worst thing. I mean, it is the worst thing. Reminder to pre-save our song, Among the Phoenix. We'll announce the release date next week. Everything will be pinned in the comments. Even if you don't use Spotify, please find us, City of Sound, on whatever streaming service you use and help this independent band survive and also break through, as we are working so hard to make this our year and finally break through to the masses. So if you'd like to support us on that, please go check out our music and pre-save our brand new song. Our original merch is now back in the merch store. The Love Over Fear collection is now back after 5 years of when we only sold it while we were on tour. Now, if you are watching this on early Monday, it will be out at 5 PST on the store on Monday night, so look out for it then. But also, go check out our merch store. Every profit goes to paying off band debt and also helping us fund tour for this year, as we just got off a US tour in 2024 and we are trying to get back on the road right away, and we are fully self-funded and independent. So thank you for supporting City of Sound and Cinematic Rock. Want to let you know that about the first 10 minutes of this video, I don't want it to seem long-winded, but everything was so important to establish context and kind of lay the ground for what happens in this story. So I hope that you appreciate all the behind the scenes that I give in order to preface what happened on this US tour. So I hope you enjoy these stories. I have a lot darker ones that are coming to show what it's really like being in the music industry. I love you. We love you. Thank you for being such a supporter of us and one of our listeners. Here we go. You may have seen over the last year that I've done some vids called Storytime with Jay. And I had spent time editing them down, making them funny. And it got me thinking that I haven't really told many of the stories of our challenges, drama, and the things that have happened to us as an independent band in the music industry, as I have songwritten, produced for multiple artists, and obviously I'm also the lead singer for City of Sound. So I was told that these videos would be well-founded and people would be interested in them. I'm a little bit nervous. I'm going to start telling stories people aren't supposed to talk about. Now, a forewarning, I'm not going to name names. I am going to be somewhat cryptic about anyone in particular in a story because I have no interest in burying anybody or creating any kind of drama or anger towards anyone. These are things that we have been through. Looking back at them, they're very funny, even though at the time I was furious. So what you're about to listen to today is the story of how we got kicked from a US tour. Finally, the whole story. All right, we got some people who know. This would have been 2018. So I was writing and producing an artist, and I was the executive producer over their project. This artist had a successful past career, had kind of taken some time off, and approached me to basically come on board, revamp their sound, bring a little bit of a new energy to it, and really give like a rebirth to their music career. Now, before that, I had dealt with some stuff with a manager, which is another story that we'll tell on this if this vid does well. What that ended up was basically me losing kind of all my connections in Los Angeles. So for about 2 years, I was writing and in studio and producing for free for probably, I think, 100 songs. And it was all just to work my way up, prove myself, keep getting into bigger rooms. And what that led to was a contact with this artist. And then they heard the stuff that I'd worked on. And that's why they wanted to bring me in to work on this new project. We started getting studio, started working on new songs. I was taking a big part in the writing and the production and overseeing everything, even like vocal practice and preparation and all those things. They did very well. The band at that point, we had played a few shows. This is right around 2018. We had spent about 2 years putting out demos, starting to get new songs together, playing shows all over LA. Those shows were doing very well. And we were growing like a solid base that was very small, but it was like a really solid base. They would show up for us. They were really excited. So after this artist's music kind of gave them a rebirth, they started getting a lot of attention, which is great. That was great for me. That's great for everybody involved, right? And they wanted to go on a US tour. because they had thousands of fans in the US and in Europe. Before doing that, we went on a European tour. That's a whole nother story. But in that tour, City of Sound was not a part of that tour. That was me going as an MD, which is a music director. So that's kind of the person who oversees the whole band, the set list, making sure that everything goes well. So that way, when the artist comes on, basically you run the show, if that makes sense. So I was just MDing for their European tour. It was wild. It was interesting. I can't complain. Even though there was a lot of things that went down and were crazy, I got to go to Europe after I had written and produced on 100 songs that I didn't even get paid for, you know? So all of a sudden now I'm in Europe with an artist that I'm writing and producing for and MDing for. Like, that was incredible. And we got done with the European tour. It was complicated. Came back, started working on some other new songs. But I'm also going to be honest with you. Like, the road, like touring, first of all, thank God that like everyone in City of Sound is not like this. But there is so much that happens on a tour sometimes with artists, their teams, the crews. If you actually had like an HR on the road, literally no one would have a job. Like, some of the things that people do is unheard of. So kind of when you go on one of those, you know that there's going to be things that happen that are really like wild and maybe inexcusable, but it really is just a part of the industry. And so we got back from the European tour and we're working on new music. And in City of Sound, we were still working on some new music. I swear all this has to do with the story you're about to hear, because I have to present the context and the foundation. So we come back, we're back in studio and we're working on some of the artists' new songs while I'm also working on City of Sound. And they came to me of, hey, like, we have a lot of interest to go on a US tour. I know that you're busy right now with City of Sound, because I had kind of made it clear of, hey, I'll go on this European tour with you. But when we get back, like, I got to focus on the band, because like that's my dream. And, you know, I want to do it independently, which means it's going to take all my time. I'll still work with you in studio on songwriting and production. Any of my time after that, like, I got to go all in on City of Sound, right? And they totally understood. They were super supportive. I want to make it super clear that this artist, like in the story I'm about to tell, I have zero hard feelings towards them. I actually have a lot of grace for them, just because a lot of the things on the outside that they were having to deal with, and just a lot of tough stuff. So I also want to say I have a lot of grace and love still for this person. This is a funny story, okay? Even if you get a little angry. So some of the things I say, I just really want it to be known that like I still got love for this person, all right? And like totally past it. This is just for us to share a little bit in the journey together where we've been through, okay? So let's just like get that through. So they come to me, talk to me about the US tour. This artist, they weren't overly confident in their ability, even though, like, honestly, I could always see that with the right preparation and practice, they could be great. There was just always kind of a, you could call it like an insecurity or fear that they kind of carried with them about their own self in performing. And because of that, when they told me that they were going to do a US tour, there was definitely a comfortability of, because I had written and produced on their music, I had been the MD in Europe, I was also singing backup, like background vocals. There was definitely a trust with me. And so they more pitched it as, look, I want to do this US tour, but like, I want you to come. I understand that you already told me that you weren't going to be able to do that anymore because you have to focus on City of Sound. And they come up with a really good idea. You're trying to build City of Sound's following. I have a great following, but I need a band and I need an MD that I can trust. And I need the person who knows my music better than anybody. What if you MD'd, but City of Sound opened? Also, that way I save on an opener. I could also use a couple of your bandmates as my supporting band, but y'all open in like a 30, 40 minute set. And then I come out and headline. And that way it keeps everything under one umbrella. There's not multiple teams to deal with. It just makes it easy. And I actually kind of thought about it. I brought it to the band. And I was like, that's actually a great idea. I already knew the complications that could happen on a US tour, just given past experience. The idea was, this is a huge opportunity for my band. Like, we should approach this very seriously because this is a great opportunity, but also we're also going to help. So it was a great win-win. When the artist met with me about City of Sound opening for them, we had a very strong heart-to-heart where, one, I told them, you already did a European tour. You sold out every show. You can do this. You're capable. All you have to do is practice and prepare, and you have to trust yourself. But then I let him know, you know how I am as a performer. You also know how good my band is. because everyone in City of Sound is incredibly talented. And I just told them, if you want us to open, I love that. And we're going to do our job, because the job of an opener is to bring all the energy, break the walls down if there is any. So that way the headliner can come out and like the crowd is warmed up, right? So by the time the headliner comes out, if there is any sense of awkwardness in the crowd, it's gone, because the opener took all that on and then turned it over, blew the show out of the water. So I let them know, if we're going to open for you, we're bringing it. And I'm saying that because I know that you do have these confidence issues. And I want to let you know that, like, just prepare and practice, and you're never going to have any kind of insecurity of following our performance when we open. Now, I know that could sound kind of arrogant, but like, honestly, for anyone who has seen us live, like, we put on a damn good show and we pride ourselves in that. And a lot of it is because we never know which show was our last. We're independent. When those people buy tickets to come see us, like, those are our people. I don't know if we're going to be able to perform in front of them again. It's just true. So when we go to perform those shows, we give them everything. And so I just wanted to make it clear to them that we were going to do that. And they responded with, I already know that. I've already seen y'all perform live. It's going to be great. I am going to practice. I'm going to be prepared. I'll be super confident. Don't even worry about it. And I was like, cool, let's go. Let's do it. So then the tour was sealed. We started preparation for the tour, got the tour announced, everything. And the first thing we kind of noticed that was kind of a red flag was kind of the marketing. And it was that there wasn't much of it. And that put a little bit of a red flag, just because even Beyonce markets her tours. Even Taylor Swift markets her tours. Even J-Hope markets his tour. You are never, ever too big to promote your shows. And your fans want you to promote your shows because they want to see that you're excited. They want to see that, like, you're coming to see them. Like, that's awesome. So that was kind of the first red flag. But it's like, hey, it doesn't matter. We know people are going to show up. We're going to do our part. We're going to promote as much as we can. Obviously, back then, we didn't have nearly the following we have now. Not that we have a huge following now, but obviously, we can at least put ourselves on a headline tour that's in front of 100 to 200 cap rooms, right? Back then, we had much less reach. And now one thing I do want to say is this artist took care of us. You know, because we were also the supporting band, I was the MD. We did a week of rehearsals down in Long Beach, and it was at like a rehearsal space. They got an Airbnb for everybody, the whole crew. It was great. You know, we had like, we were even performing with in-ears, which for us, even now still, we can't afford in-ears and like a whole in-ear system because it costs a lot, and we're just not successful enough yet to do that. But for this tour, we were running in-ears, you know, because of their success as an artist that they had reached. They had an incredible soundboard and system that we were going to be traveling with. So in terms of like gear, we were going to be performing with some of the best stuff we even still now have ever performed with. Let's just like note that we were well taken care of. Everyone did get paid, at least for parts that they, for the moment that we were on the tour. But as we started rehearsing, there started being a little bit of a clash with the artist and some of the sound crew. We've been very lucky with sound crews to have people who are easy to work with and fun to work with, who are loving and, you know, want to be a part of the show and really see themselves as like bringing something to the table. Sometimes with sound crews, you run into some very big egos. When you already have an artist who's a headliner, which like naturally you're going to have some sort of an ego. It's your tour. It's literally your name on the bill. But you have a sound crew, especially like the leading like sound engineer, who's kind of trying to like poke buttons at the artist for no reason, almost kind of trying to make them feel like they don't deserve to be where they are yet in the industry. You're going to naturally start to create some clash. And that was in rehearsals prior to the tour. Now, the sound engineer was also the tour manager. So I already started kind of smelling problems. And so did the rest of the band, kind of seeing that clash start to happen. I had to step in a couple times of just being like, hey man, they're the headliner. Like you can't be talking to the headline artists like this. Also, like you're digging at their insecurities and kind of the fear I was already talking about, you know, they didn't feel super confident in their preparation, their practice, their abilities. And I was like, every time that you come down on this headlining artist, or you like say something and like you kind of like say it to the side a little bit while we're doing sound check, while we're rehearsing, what you are doing is you are projecting your insecurities because you are someone who did not make it as an artist. And now you're a sound engineer. And now not all sound engineers like that. Some sound engineers, that's what they always wanted to do. But in this particular case, you are projecting your own insecurities onto this artist we're touring with who already has some fear and insecurity, and you're making them doubt themselves even more. And we haven't even hit the road yet. Now, that was already a red flag because said artist didn't really deal with that super well either. And also understandable because you're paying everybody out of your pocket. Like, you're paying everyone money. No one should be giving you shit. Like, everyone should be cheering you on. If you have any insecurities, like people should be supportive. And that's the way the band approached it of like, hey, listen, we know you have these confidence issues. We're going to lift you up because one, I'm your MD, we're your opening band. And also like we're supporting you as your support band when you perform. Our job is to lift you up and encourage you and make you feel like you're invincible when you go on that stage. Just to start this story, you're going to also hear some things that have nothing to do with this artist and are the people around this artist who I actually felt were the true poison in the well, if that makes sense. Because if you already have someone who's had some issues in the past and then also has kind of a fear and an insecurity and they're headlining this tour, they have a big fan base that has high expectations of them and the people around them are incredibly, incredibly toxic, that person is going to explode or is going to cave in on themselves like a dying star. And I don't know which one's worse. So just put some context in of what's about to happen, kind of understanding where this artist was coming from. We get all the dates announced. We are going to start the tour in Portland and then go up through Seattle and then down the whole West Coast. And we're hitting all the major cities on the way through the tour too. We kind of start taking note again that, the promotion isn't really happening, but we're hearing ticket sales are good. So that's lucky. It's lucky if you're not promoting your tour much, but your fans are still buying tickets. Very lucky. So we get ready to go to Portland. For some of you who have already seen my story time with Javid about this, I think the video is called A Tour and a Toilet. You already know about the beginning of this tour. You just didn't know that it was a part of this tour. Right when we get to Portland, things got interesting. We were playing a venue called... We knew ticket sales were good. We walk into the theater, it's beautiful, right? And we're like, let's go. And it was kind of our first take as a band of like, we're here and we've earned this. Like, we've worked so hard for this. Then the building manager comes in and says, oh no, you're not in here. You're next door. The headliner looks around because we had been promoting and they are looking at the tour manager, who's also the head sound engineer. And there's a whole crew and their agency and manager. And they're all kind of looking at each other. They had accidentally booked the coffee shop next to the theater, which only fit around 150 people, of which was going to be well over fire code. And we walked in there and we were performing on literally an 8x8, 3 inches off the ground stage. It was a coffee house. It was like an acoustic coffee house, like where you would just have like a local come in and do like covers for an hour while people chill and do work. Naturally, the headliner, the artist that we were opening for, was furious. Understandable. It was a complete screw up by tour management and the whole team. But we have to do a show, right? We have people coming. We have this whole sound system and the whole console took up the whole booth in the coffee shop. I'm not even kidding. Like, the whole console covered the whole table. I don't even know how to explain it. You're literally taking a tour that has a whole truck of gear and you're supposed to be playing theaters and you are playing a coffee shop that has an occupancy of 150 people. Incredible. So we do sound check and it's just wild. The coffee shop is like freaking out because they're like, wait, it's a tour? Like, it's a tour that's coming through. So they're removing every table because they're like, wait, how many people are coming? We also found out there was a DJ booked right next door in the place we were supposed to be playing that had been promoted. So even before the show starts, you just start hearing... Obviously, for this tour, we were going to have a green room. Now, for us, City of Sound, we're very used to not having a green room because #independent. Obviously, for this headline and artist, they thought they were going to have a green room, as they should, especially with the amount of like tickets they were selling and the size of this tour. Obviously, the coffee shop doesn't have a green room. I have to warm up because I take about 2 hours to warm up because of the notes I have to sing. So the venue had a bathroom. I warmed up in the bathroom with a bunch of dudes just coming in and out. Literally me just warming up. Literally ended up having guys like taking pictures and videos of me warming up in the bathroom. It was super embarrassing, but the show must go on. It's overly packed inside this coffee shop. We play our set. it was, I don't even know how to explain the experience. It's a good experience in terms of a story. It's to this day the smallest stage we've ever played on. I think so. Maybe not, which is saying something. But I'm pretty sure it's the smallest stage we've ever played on. Literally like a whole tour of wires, instruments, everything on an 8x8 stage in a coffee shop. And I do give the artists that we were open for credit. They went up there and just performed. They were super frustrated. And there was some strong conversations that happened before that show. They did perform though. Then we got in, headed to Seattle. Tensions were brewing, obviously. We started really seeing the writing on the wall even after the first show. Something is not right with the tour management team, the sound crew, and the headlining artist and their agent. Something is not coalescing here. It might cause some problems on this run. It did. So we go to play Seattle. We play this venue called which, like, dude, I love Seattle. That venue is awesome. Packed out show again. So, like, even though there wasn't much promotion, packed out show again. I started to notice in the green room in Seattle that things were getting rough. And as, you know, we had already talked about, you know, when you take someone who doesn't have much confidence in their ability and already has like a natural state of fear, and you combine that with a sound crew / tour management team that's already like poking at you for really no reason, and then you already have the situation we just had in Portland, you're either going to explode on everybody or you're going to internalize everything because you don't want to explode on everybody and you're going to go to something else. Dude, on any tour for any artist ever, alcohol is the worst thing. I mean, it is the worst thing. We actually have a rule like on our tours, even though no one in the band really drinks, we just have a rule like no one's allowed to get drunk, and no one ever does, which is beautiful. Some of the boys, like after show, you know, like they might have a beer or two, and then you call it. And everyone's relatively healthy, which is where we're pretty lucky, I think. You know, if you're going to internalize all these things happening with people just prodding at you, and you already have these fears and you already have these confidence issues, and you kind of, you know, find the solution at the bottom of a bottle, it's going to actually make you question yourself more. We were in the green room, I was warming up, and they were already kind of starting to like really come down on themselves. So I gave a little bit of like a pump up speech. These people are here for you. They're here for you. They're here to listen to your songs that we made together. Like, this is your music. This is your artistry. We had a little bit of chat. City of Sound, we went out there, played the show, crushed it. I mean, we just crushed it in Seattle. The headlining artist came out, and you could tell that things were starting to crash down. And we're only on show 2. Their hair kind of started falling from their face. It almost seemed like they're kind of trying to hide themselves from the crowd, which is never a good sign. And that was when I started recognizing, even in the performance, I was like, hey, we're only on show 2, and this is a really disunited crew. The crew does not respect the headliner, which is ridiculous. You should, because the headliner is the one paying for this and putting themselves out there. I could kind of tell the writing was on the wall. So we get done with Seattle. Tensions are actually pretty high. For some reason, dude, like, I don't know why this sound crew touring team, I don't know why they just felt the need to like pick at this artist. It got to the point where I had like private conversations, you know, even on after Seattle, where I was like, hey, mind your business. You have no reason to be back in the green room. You have no reason to be coming in and talking to the artist about shit that don't matter. And I'm not trying to defend what's about to happen and the things that happen to us. I think context is important. And if I'm going to keep this story true, then I need to be very honest about that side too. They were very much like in the wrong. It seemed like it cleaned everything up. So as we left Seattle, the band we were in a separate van. So the artist was taking a bus through, the band was on a van, like a Sprinter van. But we were in there with the crew. So we were in there with the sound crew. We were on the drive down. So we were driving down to San Francisco because that's where the next show was. Some things started being said that kind of pissed me off. Let's not talk trash about an artist's performance, how they're representing their artistry when you're kind of the cause of a lot of those problems right now anyways, and they already have things on the outside in their life and security issues in their performance. So it was a little bit of a contentious drive on the way down. So we get to San Francisco. It was the first time I was ever flashed. And I got flashed during our song I For One. And if anyone knows our song I For One, it's like this super hopeful anthem. That's a funny story in itself. When we were playing San Francisco, things started to come to a boiling point. We were in the green room. There were some arguments that started breaking out. People stopped talking to each other. Our job is to engage the crowd, warm the crowd up, and walk away doing our job. So the band wasn't getting involved in any of it, but you could hear it in the other doors. And now I'm the MD. So the balance is, do I get involved or not get involved? Because sometimes the answer is to not get involved. And I had already been coming down on people privately because of how they were kind of representing themselves. That sometimes it's actually better just to like let it fizzle out. We're an hour from a show and there's already fans here. So that at that moment, that's kind of what I chose to do. Alcohol is the worst thing on a tour. And the worst thing that a venue can do is bring you 20 bottles or 20 like beers and all these things, because you only encourage people to overdo it. We got out, played the show. Naturally, I did my thing where I accidentally broke something. I think I broke my inner system. I had to get a new one because y'all know me. I jump all over the place out in the crowd. Headliner came out. It was tough. It was a tough show. A lot of like miscues, not following the count-ins with the drummer, who the drummer is the general at a show, forgetting a lot of words, forgetting a lot of parts. But I will say, at least in their defense, like still cared about their fans, still engaged with the fans, if you know what I'm saying. It was tough, right? Tough show. Artists knew it was tough. They already had all these confidence problems and they started to grow. And now we're going to go back. We have to hit a couple shows. Then we're going to go through Los Angeles and we're going to stay in Los Angeles for about 3 days and then play our show. The band's plan was, okay, well, if we're going back to LA, which is where collectively all of us lived, we're going to go back to LA. We're going to get in studio for a few days because we got a couple songs we got to get done. And then we're going to play the show in Los Angeles. We already knew that in LA, we were going to draw a big crowd. Just because we've been playing consistent shows in LA at that time for the last 2 years, we had been promoting the LA date like crazy. So we knew we were going to bring numbers for our set, which is great because it actually shows the headlining artists like that you're bringing value, right? So we were like excited about that. We got to LA. Reminder that the disorganization of this tour had been chaotic up to this point. All of a sudden got a call from the tour manager the day we got in. Hey, there's actually an acoustic show tomorrow. Hold up. Like, wait, explain, please. They had booked a show that no one knew about or told anyone about that was like an hour-long acoustic set. Basically was just, I guess they forgot to tell everybody. We were not contracted for that. No one was. Also, the headlining artist was not prepared for an acoustic set. So the headlining artist themselves was not prepared for it, but I think they had forgotten that they agreed to it before the tour started. And another thing that I will say kills an artist is not knowing how to say no. And this particular artist just said yes to everything. You end up losing schedule. You end up becoming disorganized in your brain and your mind. And what it did is that actually interrupted their preparation and practice time. So they found themselves never practicing because they were always saying yes to things and just grinding themselves like into the ground. So when the artists realized that they had to do an acoustic set, they panicked because an acoustic set really pulls back the veil. You don't have pitch correction on your soundboard, which like the equipment we were using was super high grade and like they could utilize that. You don't have backing tracks to kind of help you along with the energy if you are already not singing super well, performing well. An acoustic set is where you truly have to show up and prove yourself. And they weren't ready for that. So we had to tell the tour manager like, hey, we already have studio scheduled out and we're not contracted for the show. So like, we're not doing it. And the tour manager was like, I understand, like it wasn't even a problem. Actually, I think they actually were happy that we weren't going to do it because it just made it. So it was just like a quick hour show. A day later, we had our show that we had agreed to for the tour. And this is where things got disastrous. We all show up to play this LA show. No one is talking to each other. And I don't mean between the band and everybody else. I mean like the headliner and their crew, whatever agents, representatives, tour managers, like none of them are talking to each other, which is a horrible sign. I met with the band and I said, listen, same thing. We do our jobs. Then we're off to Pittsburgh in a few days because we had the East Coast part of the U.S. tour to go through. Let's just keep our heads like above water. Let's be encouraging to the headlining artist, even though they were starting to lose it a little bit. And let's do our job. Like, let's do our job. We also know we have a lot of fans coming. We can't let this get in our way because it's not our problem. So let's show up for our people. Let's crush this show. Some things happened before the show because this headlining artist had VIPs. And they did very well with VIPs. All the VIPs show up. The headlining artist fans were great. They were super sweet, super encouraging to us, which was amazing. But some things happened at this VIP, and some members of their team out of nowhere left, just pieced out. All of a sudden, someone's coming in our green room. This person just left. And these are like crucial people to the show. Like what are we going to do? This isn't great. So the headlining artist obviously just goes unseen. We have no idea where they are. We have no idea where these team people are, but we have a show coming up. And then we hear the crowd and people start chanting COS, which is like what a lot of our fans chant at our shows. They chant COS, COS because of City of Sound. And we hear the numbers are big. And I'm like, we got a lot of people in this room. Like, this is going to be awesome. But at the same time, I'm like, where's the headlining artist? Where is the team who just pieced out? Ended up finding out that members of the team had flown out, left on a plane. And we find ourselves with a bare bones tour and show. We at least have sound check already done. So we know we're going to have sound. We have dealt with far worse. All we need is sound. If we have sound, if we can make sound, we're going to crush it. Like, let's go. So we go out there and we have probably ourselves like 350 people out there, which for us is huge. That's a huge show for us. They're wild, and it's like the madness. Like, it's the madness. And like I said, we knew the LA show on the tour, we were going to bring numbers ourselves. We get done with our set and we get off. And I had already said, you know, like, because when you're opener, you're like, get ready for like the headliner coming out. You know, you say the headliner's name and everything. And I kind of realized like it wasn't as loud as it usually is. We got off, and then someone came in and was like, everyone's leaving, which is not great. And actually, as the opener, you never want to hear that, because it kind of starts making it seem like you're causing a problem, even though it wasn't. It was just like our people. And usually when we have opened, like, all of our fans stay. I have no idea. I don't know if something happened in VIP, because it wasn't just our listeners. It was some of their listeners too. I finally saw the headliner before they went up on stage, because, you know, I was MDing. Finally saw them minutes before the show. I was like, oh my God, at least they're here. They had not warmed up, because obviously there was all this drama with their team who just pieced out on them. And they were not in a great state, I guess I'll say. But to their credit, they're like, I'm still going on. But they went out there and the room was half full. It was rough. It was a tough show. I just carried through as MD, pushed through. We got done with the show. The headliner came back to the green room and, you know, kind of lost it a little bit. Even yelled out, City of Sound might as well be headlining this fucking tour. You know, just really, yeah, there was a lot. There was a lot that happened in that green room. It was tough. So we all actually just left, because I was like, band can't be around this, because I didn't know if fans were still going to be there and they were going to witness something. It got to the point where I had to be protective of my people. Again, we weren't a part of what was happening, but we were there. And, you know, because of like the blow up in the green room, and then the team starts going after each other because they were already, you know, going back and forth. Like, y'all will not be surprised. This has happened to many bands and many other artists and headlining artists where their teams, we actually caught some fans outside the venue as we left. So thank God we left, because I don't know what they witnessed after that when everyone else was leaving. We go back to like our places, because we all lived in LA. I get a call the next day. It's that tour manager. Hey man, I need to talk to you. As you know, we're going to be going to Pittsburgh in the next few days for the East Coast run. I hate to tell you this, but the whole tour has been canceled. Color me shocked that the whole tour was canceled. Like, you know, I'm super pissed, because the band, obviously, at that point, you know, we weren't only doing music and like content and like all this stuff and like merch store and stuff. So we weren't making enough to not even get by or pay off band debt. You know, we're still trying to pay off band debt. You know, the whole band had taken like 2 months off of what they were doing to do this. So obviously we're furious. Also, like, given the way things were going, there ain't no way the headlining artist and that whole crew was ever going to make it through together on the East Coast, Midwest, and South run across the U.S. Someone was going to end up dead. And he says, said artist is going to put out a statement tomorrow to let everyone know it's canceled. We're going to refund all the tickets, and we're going to figure it out. Now I'm trying to get a hold of the artist. Can't get a hold of him, which is weird, because at that point, even in the midst of all the things they were dealing with their team, I had still shown up for them, you know, because like we were like brothers. You know, I had overseen all of their new artistry and their new sound, and I had been a part of all the growth that had gone into all this new music, and I'd MD'd and like all these things, right? So we had experienced a lot together, for better or worse. We had shown loyalty where loyalty was needed. And so I was trying to get a hold of them just to like, you know, talk them through it, even though I'm furious. But at the same time, I'm like, it's probably the right call for their health, honestly. And also, like, let's find a new crew. Like, let's get rid of these bastards who have just made this so difficult. No answer, nothing. Cool. Have to tell the band super bummed, is what it is. Next day, I know a statement's going out, and this artist reveals that they're actually going to go live on Twitter at that time. Because remember, this is in 2018. So they're going to go live on Twitter, and they said they had to make an announcement. So I'm like, okay, they're going to announce the cancellation of the tour. It is what it is. Reminder, this is just a funny story now. And it's a true story, and it's just a part of being an independent band. But this is what sucks when you don't have a label and you don't have that superpower that can step in for you. They go live on Twitter. The band's watching it too. They start talking about the tour, how tough it has been, and how things had not gone great with them and their team. So I'm like, okay, at least they're being honest. Like, they're being honest. And then they say, I regret to inform everyone who was interested in seeing them perform, but City of Sound has chosen not to go on the rest of the U.S. tour, which means I also don't have a support band now, which leaves me to figure things out a day before going to Pittsburgh. So obviously, my blood starts boiling. All of a sudden, we start getting tagged in so much stuff on Twitter and on Instagram of why would you pull out of a tour? We were excited to see you. We had started to see you guys on this run. People angry at us, which is justified if that was the truth and that's what happened. And then they went on like a sob story of how we pulled out. And so now they have to do an acoustic tour because we did this out of nowhere, which actually caused us to lose a lot of listeners because they thought that we had basically given the middle finger to them and pulled out. The issue is that at that time, I was trying to not get us buried by the industry because we were working so hard to break through in the industry. And this might reveal to you why I have recently talked about we are no longer trying to break through the industry, because I was trying to play nice while explaining that that wasn't true at all. And we would never pull out of a tour. Why would we pull out of a US tour that was great for us? That literally was like an awesome opportunity. And we got buried. And it does happen. And it happens a lot in the music industry. And it sucks when it happens. But someone had to take the fall. Somebody had to take the brunt. It was going to be the small, independent DIY band. So I obviously, once this is done, I'm furious. And the band is furious because we're like, we did everything right. I even showed up for like this headlining artist in their hardest times on this part of the tour, talked them through it, encouraged them. I was by their side. And literally, like, I'm like, how could you try to do everything right and not even like get done wrong, but like get buried, like bury our career, bury everything we work for, bury like a whole fan base that now thinks that we basically just thought we were better than and like had no obligation to do this. So I call that tour manager who called me the day before. He knew what was going on. He could have told me what was really happening, but he lied to me because he didn't want to have to deal with that conflict on the phone. He picks up and without me even saying anything, he goes, "Hey man, you guys were just too good." True story. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back as if like we were doing these great shows. And obviously I went off on the phone on him and he was like, dude, like he was like, look, you guys are fantastic. And that's the problem. How is it us? You're the one who has all the problems with him. You guys were screaming and yelling at each other like blah, blah, blah. Basically what happened was the headliner wanted to find a new crew. This tour manager basically like turned it into as if they had too strong of an opener, got into the artist's head and basically convinced them if you drop them as the opener and your band, you can just do an acoustic tour across the US. Your confidence will come back and you'll be fine. And we basically just got played all over the place. You'll be shocked to hear it did not make them more confident and fix the problems, because guess what ended up happening? The rest of their US tour that we were no longer on was a disaster. And it actually caused infighting within their fan base and a whole meltdown within their fan base because of some things that happened and how things were handled and what happened on that tour. And they also never ended up working with that team again. All of that fell apart. And that artist, a year and a half later, came crawling back, asked me to do their next album.
Trace of a heartbeat, bring back the futures we lost, tear down the anthem still rising. I know it's not too late for us. Out of sight, time and reason. I hope to be better. Are we meant to cross the dying lines and walk to promise together? I'm a distant defeatist. Horizons will never forget how a wayward love was captured and drowned and laid into forfeit.